Nuria headed down a country road, carrying a huge bag slung over her shoulder and cruising every time her feet sank into the mud. She took a piece of paper from her pocket on which an address was written, but could not understand whether she had written down the right one. "Do I take you somewhere?" asked the young man behind the wheel who appeared on the road. Nuria refused the offer in a bad mood. Only a moment later, did she regret it. Nuria cried as she was sprayed with mud by the same car which offered to help her before. She sat down on a log and started to cry. "Oh Lord, why does this happen to me? Only there was no place in the city to do the training." But the young man got back to Nuria and apologized and offered to help her and get her to her destination. And she accepted. He turned out to be her next-door neighbor, and he even offered her to come to his mother's house and take a hot bath, but she thanked him and closed her door. The house had a kitchen and a small room where there was a thick layer of dust all around. "Tomorrow I will clean everything. Now I'm going to wash and sleep," the young woman thought, and with a sweet yawn went to look for the bathroom. But however much she searched the house, she found nothing like it, except for a certain construction that vaguely resembled a shower, whose four sides were covered by curtains. Turning the handle, she realized there was no water, and at that moment the phone rang. "What do you think of the place?" It was the voice of her friend, Hernan. "Horrible. There is not a single decent road. I don't even know how I got there, and now it turns out that there is no water in the whole house. I don't know what I will do." Nuria sighed, waiting for Hernan to give her some advice. But he only felt sorry for her. She wished him good night and hung up, having prepared a place to sleep with the bedding she'd packed in her bag. Nuria realized that she couldn't sleep. She was so dirty. She urgently needed to take a shower. After thinking for a few moments, she stuffed a towel into a bag. She looked for everything she needed and went to the neighboring house. A pleasant middle-aged woman opened the door. "Hi, I'm going to be your neighbor for a while, and I don't have water. Alonso said I could shower in his bathroom." She didn't want to upset them, but Nuria was in a situation like this for the first time in her life, and she felt uncomfortable. "Of course," the woman smiled. "So you're our new paramedic?" Nuria nodded. "That's good. The bathroom is there," the woman pointed. "And then we wait for you for dinner." The bathroom was very modern and newly renovated, so using it was a real pleasure. After the shower, they were waiting for her on the table with a hot dinner. The owner's name was Miss Eugene, and she turned out to be pleasant company. Having thanked the hostess, Nuria headed for a door to go home and collided with Alonso, who wished her a good night. Waking up early in the morning, the young woman began to clean the house. She discovered that the kitchen faucet was running water, and although it was only cold for Nuria, it was already a reason for joy. As she was packing up, there was a knock on the door. When Nuria opened, she saw Alonso, who was carrying a tool bag. "I came to fix the faucet. Will you let me in?" he asked. Nuria tried to protest without much conviction, but Alonso had already taken off his boots and gone to the breakdown site. Nuria continued with her work so as not to bother Alonso, who decided to help her. An hour later, a stream of water came out of the tap, and Nuria was fine. Alonso told Nuria that he is happy to help her when she asked him why he helped her like that. After that, he left. Nuria's boyfriend Hernan didn't call her anymore, which seemed really bad. Instead, Alonso was constantly in his way, always trying to offer his help. What surprised Nuria was that at such a young age, the boy could do just about everything her home required. Something you couldn't say about Hernan, that he never had a hammer or a screwdriver in his hand. Having started work, the young specialist Nuria immediately liked the inhabitants of the small town, especially the elders. Alonso stopped by to see her almost every night. Now they were having tea together and discussing the latest news. Little by little, Nuria began to notice that she was also attracted to him. The young man had an excellent sense of humor and was a true handyman. Also, he was very friendly, and she was afraid of her feelings because Hernan was waiting for her in town, but she couldn't help it. One night she noticed that Alonso was upset about something, and when she asked him about the reason behind his bad mood, he told her that he is sad because she's going to leave after 2 months when her training ends. He looked her straight in the eyes. Nuria was about to cry for the feelings that suddenly invaded her, but the woman didn't take long to say goodbye and left. She couldn't get Alonso out of her mind, and in the morning, while struggling with a headache caused by lack of sleep, she went to work. Her first patient was a young woman who, upon entering the office, locked the door and said to her, "Alonso is my boyfriend. He is mine. Did you understand? And until you come from your city, we were fine." We were going to get married and now he doesn't even want to see me because of you. But I want you to know that you're not going to get away with it, because we're having a baby. Go to your city and forget Alonzo. Get out of my way forever." The young woman whispered, clenching her fists angrily. "Are you expecting a baby?" Nuria asked. "Don't worry, there's nothing between us, and I didn't even know Alonzo had a girlfriend. He will never come to my house again," Nuria replied, and it was only when the door closed behind her visitor that she gave way to tears. In the evening, as usual, there was a knock on her door. Nuria sighed and opened the door. It was Alonzo. "Don't come anymore. It will be better for everyone. You and I can't have anything between us," she said with a dry tone. "What happened? Did I hurt you?" The boy didn't understand anything. "I really mean it. Do not come back. There can be nothing between us." Nuria wanted to close the door as quickly as she could. But Alonzo put his foot in the middle and asked her about the reason. But Nuria managed to close the door this time. A few tears fell from her eyes. She picked up the phone and decided to text Hernan to come as soon as possible. Alonzo never returned. Nuria often saw him on the street, and every time she tried to look away, she felt like she was burning with his eyes. And a few days later, Hernan arrived. But Nuria was not happy to see him and realized that the upcoming parting was inevitable. Meanwhile, she thought that being with him wasn't going to help her forget about Alonzo. The next day off, she and Hernan went shopping. They planned to have a picnic in the nearby forest. It was Hernan's idea. The young man was so moved by small-town life that he couldn't stop coming up with ideas. Nuria really didn't want to go, but she had no other choice. As she waited for Hernan on the porch of the house, she suddenly felt someone grab her hand. It was Alonzo. "If you don't love him, why are you with him?" he asked. Only then did Nuria realize how much she had missed Alonzo these days, and his eyes were red as if he hadn't slept. "Whether I love him or not is none of your business. Is it clear?" Nuria said, freeing herself from his grip. At that moment, Hernan got back. "What's going on here?" he asked. "Dear, this is our neighbor Alonzo. I'm sorry, but we have to go." Taking Hernan's arm, she headed to the forest. "I stopped liking the idea of a forest. How about we organize a picnic in the square? Is there a lot of space?" Nuria suggested. "What did you say? Look at those landscapes. If it seems that we are in a fairy tale, when will we have another opportunity like this?" Hernan responded with emotion, not pausing to look around. Suddenly, Nuria took a wrong step and realized that something was pulling her leg underground. She screamed with all her might and tried to get out, but the same thing happened to her other leg. She realized that she was in a swamp. When Hernan arrived, Nuria was already in a panic. "Take me out of here! Save me!" she screamed. But the boy felt so confused that the first thing he wanted was to keep a safe distance from that place. "What are you doing standing there? Help me!" the young woman pleaded. But he got scared to be pulled to, and told her that he will get someone to help her, and fled. Having been left alone in a terrible forest, Nuria understood that help was unlikely to come. She was paralyzed with fear, and her voice growing hoarse from the screams. Suddenly, Nuria felt someone grab her by the arms, trying to pull her out of the swamp, and heard a voice that was familiar to her. "Do not be afraid. I'm here with you, and I won't let you down." It was Alonzo's voice, and Nuria was calmer. She was able to completely relax because she trusted him. After several attempts, Alonzo managed to get her out, and the two fell headlong into the grass. "You risked your life to save me," Nuria said. "What a fright you gave me. I was afraid I wouldn't make it on time. I would never forgive myself if something happened to you," said Alonzo in a low voice. Nuria at this moment asked Alonzo about his girlfriend, but he didn't understand what she was talking about. When Nuria explained what happened, he got it. "It was Belen. She's been haunting me since childhood, but I couldn't imagine where it would go. Look, I don't have a girlfriend, and I'm not going to be a father. I don't need anyone but you. I just want you," whispered Alonzo. "I love you too," replied Nuria. All that time, Hernan never came back, and when Nuria got home, she didn't find his stuff either. Having finished her practices, she got a permanent job as a paramedic in the city, where she met her love. She married Alonzo, her savior, and stayed with him.